Breaking news today: Russia and Russian-occupied Ukraine both have deteriorating religious freedom. The Putin regime's systematic persecution of religious minorities and its crimes against religion in Ukraine are highlighted in two well-written reports. The International Religious Freedom Act, IRFA, of 1998 established the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom as a nonpartisan, bipartisan federal government agency. The President and the party leaders in both houses of Congress make appointments to its commission. Two new reports were published by the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, USCIRF, on July 5. The first was titled, Religious Freedom Conditions in the Russian Federation, and the second was titled, Russia's Religious Freedom Violations in Ukraine. After the aggressive war against Ukraine broke out in 2022, religious freedom in Russia and the occupied regions of that country took a significant nosedive. We appreciate the USCIRF's use of Bitter Winter as a reputable news source on Russia, and we applaud the organization for its two thoughtful and well-written reports. The report on Russia notes that, over time, the Russian government has granted special recognition and privileges to the Russian Orthodox Church of the Moscow Patriarchate, which has contributed to the development of an environment hostile towards other religious groups, and goes on to detail the increasingly harsh applications of the existing laws against proselytization and extremism, as well as the continuing persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses, followers of the Kazakh esoteric movement, and other religious minorities in Russia. The ECHR rulings against Russia for its treatment of Jehovah's Witnesses and Aliyah Ayat are noted in the report. Russia, however, has abandoned the ECHR and refuses to comply with its rulings. Following the aggression in 2022 against Ukraine, many religious groups, especially evangelical churches, were labeled as undesirable, rather than extremist, and laws were changed to make it illegal to take part in the activities of such groups. Many religious groups were persecuted after the government changed national security and traditional values laws, even if their only crime was proselytizing among Russian Orthodox Christians or refusing to support and spread Putin's propaganda against Ukraine and the West. The authors of the report draw the following conclusion: Russian authorities continue to engage in severe religious repression and have used its war in Ukraine to institute new or amend existing legal mechanisms to further suppress religious communities and decimate independent civil society. According to the report, the State Department first designated Russia as a country of particular concern for violations of freedom of religion or belief in 2021, and re-designated it in 2022 for its violations committed in both Russia and Ukraine, including Russian-occupied Crimea. In the second report, about Ukraine, it is stated that, since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022, its military has dismantled religious life and stifled religious diversity throughout other parts of Ukraine, besides the occupied territories of Crimea and Donbass since 2014. Russian artillery and military forces frequently damaged and destroyed religious buildings and other sites on the front lines of the war, killing or injuring those who sought safety there. De facto authorities in regions under Russian control have been abducting and torturing religious leaders and enforcing the same repressive Russian legal mechanisms that have been in place in Crimea and Donbass since 2014. Russia's unprovoked war of aggression against Ukraine has been characterized as justified on religious grounds, and official Russian state discourse has frequently resorted to rhetoric demonizing Jews, distorting the Holocaust, denigrating non-traditional religious groups, and the LGBTQI+ community. Persecution against Jehovah's Witnesses is as severe in Crimea as it is in Russia. Crimean Tatars have been subjected to some of the harshest repression because of their opposition to Russia's purported annexation of Crimea. Evangelical pastors have been abducted in Donbass. Nearly 500 houses of worship have been destroyed since the war began in 2022, with a particular focus on those belonging to religious minorities. The theft of sacred objects is another concern. The bone fragments of Prince Grigory Alexandrovich Potemkin were reportedly stolen from St. Catherine's Cathedral in Kherson by Russian soldiers in October. The prince was the imperial founder of Kherson and had been instrumental in the Russian Empire's annexation of Crimea in 1783. A handwritten Torah scroll and a 200-year-old Bible were among the allegedly stolen 2,000 artifacts from Mariupol's museums, according to the city council's exiled members. Russian propaganda has used false religious arguments to justify the war, including some with anti-Semitic overtones, claiming variously that the Jewish lobby, cults, Satanists, or Nazi neo-pagans control the Ukrainian government and media. The Russian Orthodox Church has frequently portrayed the aggressive war as a crusade or a holy war. In conclusion, Russia continues to be the most significant threat to religious freedom in Ukraine, which is why the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom has recommended that the U.S. Department of State label the Russian Federation a country of particular concern, CPC, for its systematic, ongoing, and egregious violations of religious freedom until at least 2023. From July 1, 2023, the government will only charge a 1% sales tax on the import of all raw materials used in the basic manufacture of pharmaceutical active ingredients and pharmaceutical products, a significant tax break for the pharmaceutical industry. The import of any and all pharmaceutical raw materials was previously exempt from the 1% sales tax reduction. Similar to how pharma raw materials with multiple applications were exempt from the 1% sales tax threshold. The same inputs that can be used in multiple ways can now be imported at a sales tax rate of only 1%. Drugs and pharmaceuticals. The old sales tax system is back in effect. Substances registered as drugs under the Drugs Act, 1976 and medicaments as are classifiable under Chapter 30 of the First Schedule to the Customs Act, 1969 would be subject to a 1% sales tax under the Revised Sales Tax Act, with the following exceptions: a. Filled infusion solution bags imported with or without infusion given sets. B. Scrubs, detergents, and washing preparations. C. Soft soap or no soap. D. Adhesion promoters. As of July 1, 2022, this replacement will be legally recognized. As long as no input tax adjustments are made along the supply chain, the tax levied and deposited by the manufacturer or importer, as the case may be, will suffice as final discharge of tax. Raw materials used in the production of pharmaceutical active ingredients and finished pharmaceutical products would be subject to a sales tax rate of 1%, with the proviso that, in the event of import, only those raw materials shall be entitled to reduced rate as specified which are liable to customs duty not exceeding 11% ad valorem, either under the First Schedule or the Fifth Schedule to the Customs Act, 1969, or under a notification issued under Section 19 of that Act. This is provided that, 1. The DRAP certifies the item-by-item requirements of drug and API manufacturers and, 2. All relevant information is provided to the Pakistan Customs computerized system prior to import. Notably, China's Consul General in Karachi, Yang Yundong, has promised his country's full backing to the Pakistani business community in its efforts to forge B2B cooperation in order to boost trade, investments, and economic ties. Irfan Iqbal Sheikh emphasized that despite ongoing investments by China, Pakistan continues to experience a trade deficit with that country, with rising Chinese imports and falling Pakistani exports. Cotton, $826.32 million, copper and copper products, $790.27 million, cereals, $382.368 million, oilseeds, $152.97 million, and fish, crustaceans, and related products, $161.217 million, accounted for the majority of Pakistan's $3.04 billion in exports to China in 2021, according to the FPCCI chief. Pakistani exports to China could be boosted by the following products, according to Sheikh: rice, $1.12 billion, medical or surgical instruments, $400.27 million, apparel and clothing, $873.77 million, leather and leather products, $176.43 million, cement and associated products, $147.75 million, undenatured ethyl alcohol, $164 million, fish, crustaceans, and related products, $157.14 million, Pol. In light of the massive relocation of many labor-intensive industries out of China, Jawed Ilyas, chairman of FPCCI's Pakistan-China Business Council, has proposed that they can give priority to Pakistan as their new location. With 64% of its people being under the age of 24, Pakistan has an abundance of available workers. Pakistan will benefit greatly from this in the areas of industrialization, technology transfer, and job creation.